John Hansen, carrying the number of 814 MJ 277 in the District of Nebraska and the number of 314 CR 91 in the Northern District of Florida. Counsel for the United States, enter appearance for the record, please.
Frederick Franklin, Assistant U.S. Attorney.
Defendant's advised that he's charged in an indictment in the Northern District of Florida in count 1 with a violation of Title 18 United States Code, Section 1349. That's a conspiracy to commit mail fraud. Maximum penalty in the event of conviction on that count is up to 20 years imprisonment or a $250,000 fine or both such fine or imprisonment. Any term of imprisonment to be followed by a term of supervised release of up to 3 years and a $100 special assessment. You're additionally charged in counts 2 and 4 with mail fraud. The maximum penalty in the event of conviction on that count in violation of Title 18 United States Code, Section 1341. The maximum penalty in the event of conviction on that count, on each of those counts, up to 20 years imprisonment or a $250,000 fine or both such fine or imprisonment. Any term of imprisonment to be followed by a term of supervised release of up to 3 years and a $100 special assessment. Counts 5 and 6, you're charged with violations of Title 18 United States Code, Section 4013. That's criminal contempt. In the event of conviction on that, you're subject to a fine and imprisonment at the discretion of the court. You're advised you're not required to make any statement. Any statements that you do make could be used against you in these proceedings or elsewhere. You have the right to be represented by an attorney at all stages of proceedings. And if you have an attorney or wish to make contact with an attorney of your own choosing, you'll be given that opportunity. If you are a person without enough money to hire your own attorney, then I'll appoint the federal public defender seated next to you as your counsel upon a showing as to your financial condition. The next proceeding before me will be that of an identity hearing, a hearing to determine whether you are the Paul John Hansen that's named in the warrant from the Northern District of Florida. If that's shown, or if you waive such a hearing, then you'll be held for further proceedings in the Northern District of Florida. It is only in the Northern District of Florida where you can stand trial on a plea of not guilty. However, pursuant to Rule 20 of the Federal Rules of Criminal Procedure, you can have the case transferred from the Northern District of Florida to the District of Nebraska, but solely for the purposes of entry of a plea of guilty and sentencing upon the consent of the United States attorneys for both the Northern District of Florida and the District of Nebraska. And before we leave here today, the terms and conditions of release will be discussed. Now, first of all, do you have an attorney or wish to make contact with an attorney of your own choosing, or do you request that I appoint counsel seated next to you?
I'd like to have pen and paper and a short leave of court, please.
For what purpose?
To make notes and to respond in writing to the court, because I cannot.
You can respond. You can respond. You can respond orally here in court. We're on the record. It's taped.
I need pen and paper to keep records, sir.
Do you have pad and pencil for him?
I don't have a pad, Your Honor. I have a pen.
There you go. There you go. Give him a pad and pencil.
Thank you.
Now, sir, do you have an attorney, or do you wish me to appoint the attorney seated next to you?
I don't want to say any words that would convey me yielding to any personal jurisdiction. I'd like to challenge, I as a man would like to challenge personal jurisdiction of every element of the activity that has brought me here.
I will assume that is a request for an identity hearing in that respect. Therefore, this matter will be set for an identity hearing. We'll set it for next week.
No, sir, you misunderstood me.
What?
I wish to challenge, I'd like to have the opposing party produce the evidence that I am here pursuant to law and territorial jurisdiction. I have been taking off of the property that is not evidenced. as in possession or territory of the United States. Therefore, the court lacks subject matter jurisdiction.
Well, the jurisdiction that I have is to determine whether you are the Paul John Hansen that's named in this warrant, and we're going to have a hearing to determine whether you're Paul John Hansen, and if you are, then you'll be held for further proceedings in the Northern District of Florida. In order for you to prepare for that, and for the government to prepare for that, I'll set a hearing next week in this matter for such an identity hearing.
I have no difficulty identifying myself, sir.
Well, are you admitting to me that you are the Paul John Hansen that's named in the warrant from the Northern District of Florida?
My understanding of the definition of defendant is a statutory person. I am not a statutory person. I am not a 14th Amendment citizen. I am independent of the United States system. But yes, they do call me Paul John Hansen. My parents have called me Paul John Hansen ever since I was born.
Well, the question I asked of you, and of course you can have counsel to determine whether you wish to respond to that, is whether you are the Paul John Hansen that's named in this warrant from the Northern District of Florida.
I do not know who they named. I do know that I am Paul John Hansen sitting here right now.
All right. Well, in order to ensure that Rule 5 is met in its entirety, this matter will be set for a hearing next week on October the 29th at 10:30 a.m. If the government needs more time than that in order to have the appropriate witnesses here, they may make such request to the court.
I wish to challenge personal jurisdiction at this time, now.
And you're noted for the record. At this particular time, what's the position of the government with regard to release?
The United States is seeking detention based on a risk of non-appearance and a risk of danger.
All right.
Sir, I didn't understand. You said noted for the record, but is that request denied?
I don't make a determination of personal jurisdiction at this time. That's why we're having a hearing on the 29th at 10:30, and that'll be a combined identity hearing and a detention hearing in that respect.
Okay, thank you. That does help me.
In the meantime, you'll be remanded to the custody of the marshal. You'll be held in detention pending a hearing at 10:30 a.m. on Wednesday, October the 29th. Anything further from the government?
No, sir. Thank you.
All right, we're in recess. You're excused.